Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal woman that I had the pleasure of meeting up over this past year. I'm super excited to have her on today. She is a woman of many hats. She's a mom, she's a wife, she's actually an Army vet. Who ascended to the rank of captain in her service. She's a life coach, and she's actually, set up to pour in specifically to women who also have traveled that military journey as well, just trying to empower and uplift and encourage them, taking them into their next phase of life. But most importantly, she is a woman of God, and she's taken out time out of her busy schedule to hang out with us this evening with, again, the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting in the sharing of her story, with the hopes that you can take some gems and some nuggets that she's going to drop on us tonight, apply those to your life with the hopes that you'll be able to persevere and stand strong in the midst of adversity and challenging moments. So with that said, it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you Miss Renea Jones-Hudson. Renee, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Really honored.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So before we jump into our segments, I do want to give you an opportunity to give a little introduction about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give our audience a taste of who is Renea Jones-Hudson.
So, I am Renea Jones-Hudson, as you said, and I am originally from Jamaica. So, I was born and raised there. I went to high school. Well, I left there when I was 14. I I made it to the ninth grade and then migrated to the US. Continued school, and I actually went to school in Canada for a little bit. Then I moved back to the US, finished high school, and enlisted in the military when I was 18. um, I was primarily raised, like we all live in the same house, but I was primarily raised by my grandparents. And that experience really still has a big impact on how I kind of navigate life, from a religious standpoint, to just remembering how my grandmother was and trying to mimic, because she was who she was, right? And we are who we are. But just always having just that memory of, okay, you can be kind, you can be gentle, you can be patient, you don't have to yell. So those are all my memories of her. um like I said, joined the army when I was 18, retired close to 42. So I've been retired now since 2017. So almost, what, 7 years?
Mm.
Seven, actually, yes, it's 7 years. March 1st, 2024 made it 7 years that I've been out. I am a wife, 27 years. We have two children. Um, I own, I'm a business owner. I do have a coaching business. It's called the Empowered Life. And it's for, like you said, I help transitioning women, transitioning military and veteran women. I have to, sometimes I get tongue tied because I'm trying to include the transitioning women and the veterans. So I get tongue tied when I say that. I recently, well, I'm studying to get my life insurance license, because I want to tie that into the retirement piece of my coaching. I do coach more than just military women, but I primarily focus on helping those women, because it's something that I went through, the challenges that I faced, and that's kind of what I'm trying to speak into them, just trying to get them through that process a little bit easier, help, just knowing that I understand what they're going through. I felt what they felt, you know, just all of what they may feel during that time. It's okay and it's real, and we can get past it. So that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. And again, to my listening audience, I told you she is a woman of many hats. So she's got her hands on a whole bunch of different things, but she's standing strong. She's making an impact on this world. Of course, we want to thank you, for your service and just for the works that you're doing. It's just phenomenal. And again, I'm super excited to learn more. We already got some gems and some some great insight about you just in these first few minutes. So I know you got more to share with us. So thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
that. So Renee, I'm a firm believer that when it comes to our journeys, when it comes to our stories, in order for us to fully capture the true essence of one's journey, you can't not ignore where it all starts, where it all begins, and of course, you tapped in a little bit of that, in your intro, but we want to delve a little bit deeper. So, if you would kind of reflect back on your childhood, on your upbringing. You've had a chance to live in multiple places. You've spoken about the impact of your grandmother on your life, and just the overall experiences in general. So, if you would share with us, what was it like for you growing up? Again, more of the fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there was any specific challenges in growing up. Please share those as well. We're just curious to know kind of the foundational basis of where your journey begins and how that has shaped you as you transitioned into your ultimately transitioning into adulthood. So please kind of take us into your world of coming up.
Yeah, okay, so growing up, I don't remember being, I wasn't, it's almost like I was two people. I don't know if that makes sense. So I had, I was happy with my grandparents, and there's my mom's mom and my dad's mom. So my dad's mom was not the nicest. So it's like I had the evil mom, the evil grandma, and the good mom. I hate to put it like that. I don't know how to articulate it right now, but I will tell you my experience with my dad's mom. So my dad's mom did not. For some reason, we ended up living with her for a little bit. It seemed like a long time, but because of what I was experiencing with her, and she was not a very nice person. Um, and I remember it's like my mom's mom is complete opposite. So, growing up with the two, you have those two examples, right? And, you know, we're all in those environments where we get to choose which path we're going to take, right? So what I can say to you is that I am truly grateful for my maternal grandmother. Um, I did spend a lot more time with her. Um, and I feel like, so even with that, even with saying that, we have to give our parents and our parents' grace because they raised us the best way they knew how, following the same, how they were raised and everything. And I could tell you this, I don't remember being encouraged to dream and to, just believe in the possibilities to explore anything. But I do remember feeling different, even through my challenges, right? And it's kind of weird. Like when you think back, who you are now, there was always a fight. Like even if it was, that faith the size of a mustard seed kind of thing, but there was always I always felt different even in my struggles per se or challenges as a kid growing up. I was very shy, very insecure, but I still had this quiet confidence, and I'll tell you why. I grew up kind of being a mother to my brothers, and it was very my grandmother had arthritis, so I ended up I it was several of us, but we had to do a lot around the house. And just think as a young child, not being able to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do, yeah, that can now we would say I'm depressed or all that's that's what that would be called right now, but that's how I grew up. I just had a lot of responsibilities, so I wasn't as expressive. I was sad and I wasn't. I don't know how to explain that because my grandmother loved me, and that's the love that I hang on to. Like I hang on to her, like just remembering who she was for me. My grandfather too. But there was also a sadness to my upbringing. Um uh without going too much, I kind of touched on it a little bit in the book that I was a part of, the anthology that I co-authored with several other women. And you know, I always credit who I am today to the foundation that I have. I grew up in church, which we can go on a whole nother tangent with that belief, because for me, that has also shifted, right? So you grow up learning from your grandparents what they say, you not really understanding the Bible
Mhm.
because you just take what you get. And so, but there were instances in my upbringing where I did feel like just one of these kids was not like the other, just like burdened, just sad. And even though I had so much family around me, I just felt like I just didn't fit in. So that was part of my upbringing that you know, that kind of really stuck with me for a long time in my life. I would tell you that at 24 was when I had, is that part of the question that you asked me?
I mean, I mean, no, you can
Okay.
factor that in. That's fine.
So the first time I actually, I always wanted to be a model when I was younger. Always wanted to be a model. I was always, I was an athlete growing up. My dad was a swim coach. My mom is a swimmer as well. And I ran track in high school in Jamaica, and even when I was in Canada, and even in the military. And yeah, so I ran track. I played soccer. So I was an athlete, and I was I was muscular. I was a lot more muscular, even though I was so small. But I looked different. And I would be teased for my body, so I was insecure about my body too, growing up. And it's funny how that changes. So when I was 24, I was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington, and I was rollerblading. Well, I was trying to rollerblade, and my friend was rollerblading. And I remember we had a model scout called out, and I kept trying to rollerblade. I was, doing my thing away, and she rolled back because that's what we're used to it. We were used to them calling to her. So I just kept rollerblading. And he was like, no, you're perfect. And just him saying you're perfect, I didn't know what I was perfect for. I just knew he said I was perfect. And that's not the kind of encouragement that I didn't hear
Mm,
those things growing up. So literally, he could tell me I needed to jump off something. I was perfect to do that, right? I just heard the words perfect. And um growing up, like I said, you don't get told to I wasn't encouraged to dream. I wasn't told I was beautiful, that I was smart, that I was loved. I felt the love, which this is the grace that you extend to your parents, right? Because they didn't get that growing up, so they're not going to express that.
mm,
But at the same times, we're not being fed that. So for me, that was an intention that I set for my kids, that they were going to know that I love them. So you see how you can break cycles and things like that. So all of the things that I experienced as a child, I turned them all around for my
mhm.
kids. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, first off, again, appreciate your transparency and sharing that. But you're sharing some very real things that happen to both young ladies as well as young boys growing up. As you stated, if I'm coming up in a household where, yeah, I might have felt that love, I might have felt that care and concern, but it just wasn't expressed, and it
Mm-hmm.
made you feel some kind of way. It made you maybe feel unappreciated. It made you doubt or question,
Mm-hmm.
do I really have what it takes to be something,
Yes.
special, incredible in life? And so there's a lot of young people right now that are struggling with that, that are coming up and like you said, have even taken it into adulthood, and
Yeah.
it's impacted them in a negative way, and they don't really know how to identify their self-worth, their value. Thankful for your situation where you took what was a negative in the beginning and flipped that thing around. And
Yeah.
I truly believe, knowing what we know about you so far, and of course what I personally know about you in terms of your journey, this was, I truly believe that this was by divine. design it. In other words, in order for you to be in the position right now to even desire to encourage and empower people, whether they be from military service or just in general, part of that process involves you having to tap in and having being relatable to what the suffering and the pain feels like.
Yeah.
I'm sure it didn't feel good in that moment, as you've expressed. You would have preferred it to be a different way, but it was like God had to take you through that to prepare you so that you could again be relatable. You know,
Yeah.
I can only imagine that when you speak to to women, again, whether they be military associated or not, and you're trying to encourage and empower and uplift, they can feel your energy, not just because you're just a nice person, but they can feel that you
Yeah.
understand, that you have that true embedded empathy within you to identify what they're going through, what they're experiencing, what that feels like. And that's so critical and so important. So that's why I like having these conversations about, as we're starting the conversations, I should say, reflecting on those beginning moments, because we don't realize how much those experiences, that part of the journey, is pieces together
It's
where you're
pivotal.
ultimately leading to and walking in your purpose.
Yeah.
You know, it we have to go through that storm like moment. It's not to hurt us, it's not to harm us, it is to shape and mold us, it's to grow and develop us, as is the case in your scenario. So
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate you sharing that. And I think as parents, it's so critical that, of course, you having gone through that, you stated, hey, I made sure that once I became a mom, that my kids knew, you know, that
Yeah.
I valued them, that they were special, that they were important, that they mattered. I didn't want them to guess or hope that maybe they were, or just that it would just be okay for them to, that just because maybe I provide a roof over their head and
Yeah.
food and clothes, that's my way of expressing love. It's almost like a husband, and and I'm gonna use a husband as an example. It's almost
Mhm.
like that husband who, that wife may be feeling like, well, I know he loves me, but he never says it,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and he thinks that just because he comes home at night each day, you don't have to worry about where he's at. He
Yeah.
works, and all of that, but that's enough. And for that wife, she's saying, well, I know you do these things, and I acknowledge it. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It just would be nice if you said it every
Yeah.
now. I just like to
Yeah.
hear it.
And
And
there, yeah, there's a key to that too, because you can say, so I say to you, well, you never tell me that you love me. So now you're going to make it a point to tell me, but it's the emotions behind it too.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I do, so I am big on, if you say hello to me, I literally make eye contact with you, because part of my problem growing up too, I didn't feel seen.
Hmm.
So when I'm talking to people, especially, so if I'm busy, like if I'm at my computer and someone's talking to me, I'm like, just give me 5 seconds. Let me finish this typing and I'll stop so I can look at you. So
Love
you
that.
know that I am I'm listening, and you have my attention, because that was one of the biggest things for me. I didn't feel, especially from my mom. I'm my dad. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel loved or valued, and that was tough for me. And it was tough for me even into adulthood, when I decided to really dig into just wanting to be better. I just knowing what that feels like. You don't want another person
Mhm.
to experience it. It does happen. So that's why I make it a point. My daughter, when she's talking to me, I turn around. Yes, even if it's like the worst time, it's like, but you give them that attention. I tell her
Mhm.
I love her. Just all the things, like I said, that I didn't have. My son is the same way. My son is 24 now. My daughter is 10, and completely different people. They say boys are easier. Yes, they are. So, but just even in that, I used to get a lot of whoopings. We got a lot of whoopings when we were growing up. And like I just talked about this with someone. They talked about, the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. But the rod doesn't necessarily mean a rod or a belt. Like if you're not correcting, disciplining, showing your kids what's right and what's wrong. Like if they done something wrong, you don't condone it. you let them know this is the consequences of your behavior. I don't believe we have to beat the brakes off of them for
Right.
them to get that. And that, to me, that's what spare the rod means. Like, if you don't sit down and let them know, look, your actions have consequences. And I've proven that with my children. I can tell you how many times, on one hand, I've probably tap them or beat them. In Jamaica, we say beat. So please, nobody take that out of context. You
Beat your
guys say
kids. No.
whoopings. Yes, I know, right? Well, but because I really, and I say that because I recognize that me saying, what you did, that is very disappointed. I expected so much of you. When I start talking to them like that, you would have thought I whooped them.
Hmm.
Because the water, the like, it's just like you just hurt them. Like, I
Yeah.
disappointed you, I just broke them. So I was like, wow, that is the rod, that is part of the rod. It's not that I have to, sometimes I guess it's called for. I don't do it on a regular basis, honestly. I don't. But I can, you know, not everybody is gone through that phase where they're like, you know what, I don't really need to do this. And there are parents that don't beat their kids, but they're also not correcting them either.
Hmm.
Right. So it can go both ways. And, but for me, that hasn't been the thing. But when it goes back to you talking about, those first 7 years of a child's life, it is very critical, very crucial. And I learned this a lot more as I was going through my own healing, and it made sense. I was like, wow, because when I think back, I'm like, man, it was during those times that I didn't get what I want. But I do thank God, because it's because of him, honestly, why I'm here today. And that's why I have this deep desire to empower women, empower people. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. You can heal yourself so you can heal others.
Mm.
Right? You know how they say hurt people? Well,
Yes.
healed people heal people,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm. Wow, you're just hitting some nuggets one behind the other. One thing that you just said, we talked about, those first 7 years that you reflected on, and you talked about, I wasn't getting what I want. And I think that statement is so critical, especially, you know, when we come up in an environment maybe that we didn't always, quote unquote, get what we wanted in terms of the
Hmm.
stuff.
Yeah.
We sometimes, for those of us who've been fortunate enough to get the college education, to get the good career, to have the financial resources that we didn't have, we associate the giving the child what they want, the things that we didn't have. Again, we
Hmm.
associate that with the stuff, junk, and things, when in fact the stuff that's so much more important is the giving them what they want or giving them what they need
Yeah.
is the love, the
Yeah.
encouragement, the support, and
Yeah.
even the rod. And I
Yep.
love the fact that how you broke that down, because like you said, who said that the rod specifically literally means, a physical,
Right.
whether we call it a beating, a whooping, or
Yeah.
whatever. And we're not even here to say that,
One way is right or
a
different.
tap
Yeah.
or a strap or whatever
Yeah.
is wrong.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you said don't make the rod just be exclusively about a strap or
Hmm.
or a belt or whatever, but make the rod be more broad in the sense of, in terms of thinking of it as correction.
Yeah.
Are there some instances where laying hands must be
Yeah.
the mode of correction?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But there are also some moments where the mode of correction or the rod might just simply be, I need to have a conversation with you to help you understand why what you've done or failed to do was not right, was not appropriate, and what you need to do to correct it moving forward. And
Yeah.
and when you talked about how your kids kind of get, just the fact that you are speaking that to them,
Hmm.
how they just kind of like sort of break that down, because immediately it made me think about my own, my daughter. Is like, when I say something to her, like I don't ever have to physically do anything
Yeah.
to her. the disappointment in
Yes.
her
Yes.
behavior, or the,
Yep.
you're having a bad attitude day or
Yep.
whatever, and I point that out, and I don't have to scream, I don't have to holler, just the fact that I'm pointing it out is like,
Yes.
you know,
When you think
and
about the lessons though, right? If you
mm-hmm,
think about the lessons, I'm teaching you to hit as opposed to I'm teaching you how to communicate. You're
mm,
still teaching them either way, but what lesson are you imparting at that very moment? Right? And how are you when you're applying the physical rod? How are you applying that rod? It's so many lessons coming out of that.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? So if you think about what really what are you really doing? How are you really disciplining them or teaching them, or and this builds upon how who we are as adults, you know, do I know how to communicate effectively? Do I know how to voice how I feel? Do I know how to, encourage or speak my disappointment or what I don't like or what I do like? Or I'm just gonna hit you every time, like every
mm-hmm.
time I don't like what you say,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
just think about how relevant this plays a role even in the workplace.
Yes.
If you have an opportunity, like I've been in leadership and management for years,
Hmm.
but I learned very early on, both when I as being in that position, but also being subjected to a leader, you don't get much
Yes.
out of beating down people, you know,
Yeah.
verbally, in a
Right.
discouraging way, thinking that that's the way to get the most out of them.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised how differently it goes when,
Yeah.
yes, I hold you accountable. I address issues of concern, but when I also encourage and support
Yeah.
and try to build you up, how much more you get
Yeah.
out of that
Yeah.
individual, how much more they're willing to even receive your
Yeah.
critiques and
Yeah.
without taking it personal, because they know that you're
Right.
doing it from and you spoke to this earlier,
Right.
the feeling behind it. You're coming from a
Yes.
genuine place.
Yes.
You are genuinely concerned about my growth and development, and not just coming down on me just
Yeah.
because of your position or your title, or not just coming down on me because you're thinking that it's going to help you, increase your stats and things like
Yeah.
that, and benefit you personally at my expense.
Yeah.
So all of those things matter so much. But as you stated, it starts in how did the beginnings go? If that's what
Hmm.
I came up in, if that's what was imparted in me, and somebody or something doesn't trigger me to think of it differently, as was the case in your scenario, I grow up and I come into life just kind of repeating that cycle
Yeah.
over and over, and I start hurting other people. I start
Yeah.
attacking other people. I start,
Yeah.
whether it's again people in the workspace or people in my immediate family, my children, my spouse,
Yeah.
my people that should mean more to me than that.
Yeah.
I'm being abusive and attacking, and not even understanding why I'm doing it.
Right.
But
Right.
it triggers right back to that beginning. So it's so powerful, in just having this conversation, and again, and just what you're doing and why that is so critical, why that's so important. So that's great stuff. Great
Mhm.
stuff. Wow. So Renee, we've captured your beginning moments, coming up into, not only coming up as a child, but coming into early adulthood, and as I'm sure you know, as we go through this journey of life, and we encounter a multitude of various experiences as well as challenges,
Mhm.
and every now and then, in the midst of encountering those challenges in particular, we get faced with some things that hit a little different, that hit a little heavier,
Mhm.
that while we might be really good at navigating most stuff, every now and then a storm crosses our path that we're like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to deal with this? How am I supposed to overcome this? This is a bit weightier. This is a bit more burdensome to me. I'm actually maybe doubting, that I can persevere. I can work my way through this. So, with that said, if you would tell us about a time where you found yourself in such a situation where you question, even with your faith in God, even with your strong will and confidence in self, that maybe this was a scenario where you weren't sure how this was going to play out. Of course, you're here today, thank God, so
Yeah.
we know that you made it through whatever it is that you're about to share. But if you would kind of walk us through a scenario such as that you experienced, and what was sort of the turning point ultimately where you were beginning to see your way out of that, kind of seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, the breakthrough moment of coming through what was otherwise a very challenging storm in your particular life.
I have many, but I will tell you when I first got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I was 24 years old. It's not one of those conditions that's considered hereditary. And what it is, it's a for me, it's how do I say this so it doesn't sound so gross? But it's an autoimmune condition where for me I was diagnosed with left-sided descending colon ulcerative colitis. So it's the left side of my colon. And so leading up to the diagnosis, I just had I was losing weight really, and I'm already a small person, never been on the heavier side at all. And I just kept losing weight, and like in 2 weeks I might have lost like 18 to 20 pounds. But I couldn't figure out what that was. I remember my commander was like, you got it. I was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington, and my commander, knowing how I am, active, just physically active, I couldn't do anything. So I would go to the sick call and just sit there and just couldn't get seen. I remember it was a PA. She had just gotten out of school, and she said, I see you here almost every day, just sitting here. And I was like, yes, because I'm in pain and I need someone. I keep bleeding and I need someone to see me. And I had seen a doctor, but his comment to me was, I'm not going to send you to a specialist and look stupid for sending you to the specialist. Right. So he wouldn't refer me outside of the clinic. So she was like, come on back. Let me see you. And now I don't stress. I don't I'm a non-eater. I don't eat when I stress, so that didn't make the condition any better because I wasn't eating. And then food triggers at the time. Food was triggering my pain. So she took me back. I told her what was going on. She ran some tests. She was like, "You are bleeding." I said, "Yes, I am." Right. So I immediately got sent to the hospital GI doctor. And even going through that, just that's another part of where I felt devalued, unseen, and unheard, right? Because I'm sick. I'm not one of those people who are just gonna say I'm sick and just come sitting there. I'm too busy.
Right.
Busy to be sick right now, right? And that's always been the case. So so if I'm down, right? So I actually got admitted because it was that serious. At the time that I got diagnosed, colitis and Crohn's wasn't. It was just beginning to be. Um, it was just coming out. They really didn't have much on it. Didn't know much about it. Didn't know what the triggers were or anything. So, needless to say, I was kind of like a guinea pig. Everybody wanted to be in the room when they were doing everything, and I didn't mind because whatever you had to do to get me to stop bleeding, to stop hurting, it was a very painful. I couldn't eat because I didn't know. I couldn't eat any food because at the time I didn't know which foods was triggering. So it felt like everything was triggering, causing me to flare. Going to the bathroom was a challenge. Um, couldn't exercise, couldn't work because I literally had to sit by the bathroom like 5 minutes. We couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't go to the store. Couldn't. I had to be close to a bathroom wherever I went, so I couldn't go anywhere. And I remember when I was in the hospital, I just felt so depressed because I was like, I did that thing. Why me? Like, why? Like, I don't have any pre-existing conditions or anything. I don't have why. Like, I was just really down, and I was like, am I gonna die like this? This is the only time. It's funny because this is the first time I'm really telling my true feelings about what I was feeling. I really thought I was gonna bleed to death. I did because they couldn't fit. The doctors didn't know really what it was and how to treat it. So I remember I was in a room in one of the hospital rooms, and the nurse came in and turned the lights out. She told me I could keep my area light on, and but she turned off the lights in the room. So I was sharing a room with another patient, and I asked, I was like, why do I have to turn off the light? Right? And she told me, well, that patient cannot be exposed to any light. So they brought her in under a foil because she couldn't be exposed to any light. And I remember I laid back in my bed and I was like, I don't know if I could deal without no light. Like, I love the sun. I'm a summer baby. So look, the windows got to be open. I got to be able to go out there. So, and that literally was what shifted my mindset, because I was like, man, that's worse than what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just using using the fact that I couldn't live without being outside like that, it just it gave me some kind of strength. It just renewed something in me, like, I'm not gonna die like this. I'm gonna let them do it, whatever they had to do. I'm gonna take whatever I had to take, but I'm gonna figure this thing out. Right now, this is where I'm at, and I'm gonna figure this thing out. But I honestly thought that was one that was maybe the second time I thought that was something that was gonna kill me, because I was very depressed, and I didn't talk much. I just didn't know what was going on. And it's tough when the doctors don't even know what's going on. So you're lost and the professionals are lost. So that's not a very encouraging thing, so when I got out of the hospital, I left with like a brown paper bag full of medication. And I even said to the doctor, I'm not taking all of this. This cannot be my life. And that was supposed to be for the rest of my life. I was like, I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. I'm not taking this. I was maxed out on all the meds that they had at the time to treat the condition. And I took the meds because at that time there was nothing else for me to do. Like when I did research, I just started changing my diet. So I was like my own experiment. So I was experimenting with food, the foods that I used to. I'm Jamaican, so we like a lot of spicy stuff, right? So that was not gonna work.
Mm-mm.
So I literally was eating bland food, and it's just a whole shift. We talk about going through life's different transitions. We transition a lot. Some of our transitions are more memorable than others, but you go through just losing a job, changing a job, retiring from a job. That's a transition. Recovering from an illness, getting diagnosed with an illness. That's another transition. Having to change how you eat, how you exercise, how like we go through so many transitions. It's just some of them have a bigger impact on who we are and who we become, right? Because we can go one we have two directions that we can go, right? So that in that time for me was very big, because feeling like having light take away being taken away from me was worse than bleeding to death.
Mm.
And that's kind of what shifted my whole, like, focus. I'm like, okay, I'm just take this medication that they're giving me. And then when I got out, exercise was not an option because I couldn't. It was painful. So it was changing my food, changing my diet, which got me into a whole nother realm. Just had me down another rabbit hole in life. Doing changing my food, going from a meat eater to a vegan. I went through all of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I'm not vegan right now, so let me put that out there, because if anybody see me eat, yes, I eat everything right now.
I say I've never known a Jamaican vegan. No.
Yeah.
No. Wow. Again, appreciate your transparency and sharing that. And yet another powerful story. Because again, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and I'm connecting the dots. And for me, we have yet another moment. You had to go through this. I see this experience as painful and as frustrating as it was for you. I see this as another transition of you leveling up again. You had that first bout in childhood. You were making a way. You were finding yourself. You were discovering that I do have something to offer. I do have greatness to pour out into this world. But I see God behind the scenes saying, I'm glad you're starting to see. You're starting to get glimpses. You're starting to feel this. But what you're thinking and where I have you going is even bigger
Yeah.
than where you are right now. And so again, what God does, and I've experienced this myself, and others who will understand this. Sometimes God will take you. He will allow for a storm to come into your life that will take you to literally take you to a dark place. I mean, I thought it was very interesting. You talked about, here I am in this hospital room and being forced to have the light taken away from me. I'm just literally, so not only am I just dealing with my medical illness, now I got to sit in
Mhm.
this dark room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody who loves the light, loves
Mhm.
the freshness of the air, loves to be out and about. I'm an exerciser, I'm a runner, everything about me is outdoor. And now here I am, strapped inside. Here I am in the dark, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless. But again, God will allow such a moment to
Mhm.
take place in our lives, especially when um, he has a calling on us to do a great work. He has to allow for us to go through, if you want to call it a Job like moment, to
Yeah.
where here you are feeling hopeless with nobody to count on, nobody to rely upon, but God. Only God could get you through the funk that you were
Yeah.
in that moment. You
Yeah.
and as you stated, as painful and as dark as that space was for you at that point in time, you spoke to how it was transforming for you. It ignited a new light in
Mhm.
you in the midst of the darkness. It ignited a new light in you for you to see, okay, I need to make some modifications. I need to make some adjustments, whether it was in your diet, whether it was in just the way that you carried yourself and all that. The specific word that you use, actually, you had to change your focus.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, when you're leveling up, when you have greatness before you, when there's a great work that you've been assigned to do, what is one of the key things that you have to have in play in order to be successful in that area? And it's got to be
Yeah.
focus, discipline. You have to be very deliberate, very intentional, very specific about what you do because of where you're trying to go. In this case, you were trying to take yourself up out of this state of illness so that you
Yeah.
didn't have to walk around for the rest of your life, you know, connected to this big, large bag of medications.
Yeah.
I had to position myself. I had to come up out of this thing. I had to fight through it so that I can not only serve in the capacity that God has for me to serve in, but again, I now can that adds more to your relatability to
Yeah.
people who are suffering, who are going through. We talk about you're coming alongside military women, veterans. I'm sure you've experienced already or know of. We've heard subjects discussions of PTSD
Mhm.
and other things that impact people who've had that military experience and been in combat and things of that nature. Just the whole scenario of that. And I'm not a military person, so I can't tell you that I know it all. But you clearly would, who better to identify with those
Yeah.
feelings and what those anxieties, those stresses, and things like that are like. You can
Yeah.
relate, but God had to take you through that, and He had to use something. In this case, use a medical illness that didn't even make sense for you to have, because as you said, it wasn't like I had pre-existing conditions. It wasn't like I was an
Right.
unhealthy person. I'm working out. I'm taking care of myself. So how does a person who takes care of themselves, who's before now is pretty much the epitome of great health, get an illness that you would think might be associated with somebody who didn't take care of
Yeah.
themselves like that? So why me?
Yeah.
It
But
doesn't
it
make
just
sense.
Yeah,
But
but it just goes to show that there's a fine line between everything.
hmm
You know, you hear here today, gone tomorrow. That's a real thing. You're only a situation away from homelessness. You're only a situation away from a diagnosis. Like nothing is for certain. It doesn't matter that, yeah, I'm healthy, I eat healthy, but you have healthy people getting cancer, getting all these, life changing terminal chronic illnesses. So you it's like nobody is exempt.
hmm
It's just really when that happens, if and when that happens, I should say, it's how you come out of it that matters. Because
yes,
I do believe, and I've learned this I will say over the past 3 or 4 years. I've been learning this because I keep hearing it, and I believe it now because our our story, our stories, it's not for us. That we came out on the other side is now for us to share, because like you said, somebody somewhere needs to hear what we have to say. Somebody somewhere needs to hear that, yes, I've gone through this. They need to know that I have that same thing. And look at her or look at him. Like, you can come out of it. It's temporary. And but it also depends on, you can make it temporary, or you can make it permanent. Really,
Mm-hmm.
you choose. You get to choose. Are you going to stay in this state, or are you going to choose to be like, no, I'm not taking all this mess for the rest of my life. That's
Right.
what I'm not going to do, you know? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with everything, though. You do have a choice. You do have a choice. I mean, God gives us free will. We know right from wrong. In everything you do, you have the choice, So, and this honestly is not, this is coming from just really being intentional about growth. You know, asked me this 5 years ago, I probably would have had a different response. But it's just, and that's why I truly believe in personal growth. I
Yes.
believe now in sharing experiences. I shared an experience once on Facebook. I really don't know why I shared, because I'm not really that, like, uh into putting everything out there. But I went to Disney World with my family. It was fun, just literally. But this is, like I said to you, you're just a fine line away from being good 1 minute and being bad. We came home Thursday night, Friday night. I was in a hospital in the ER because my appendix had was about to rupture.
Hmm.
I mean, I was fine walking around that same day. That Friday, I was up and about. Got home and I was like, babe, I'm just going to bed. I don't feel good. But I couldn't sleep. He couldn't sleep because I was just not comfortable. And he was like, you need to go to the doctor. I was like, no, I'm going to tough it out. I'm going to tough it out. And he was like, no, like, because he wasn't getting any sleep. He was like, no, you need to go to the hospital. But you know what? I didn't, for some reason, I was like, okay, I'll just go. Cause I'm usually that one. No, I'm gonna just sleep it off. I'll lay down. And we went to the hospital. The minute she sent me she did an MRI, and she was like, nope, you're going into surgery. I was like, wow, like,
Hmm.
tonight? She was like, yes, tonight. I shared that experience on Facebook. Literally got a message the next day. One of my friends saw the message on Facebook, had the same um what were symptoms that I had, that I explained on Facebook. He was in the ER. The only difference between he and I, his ruptured,
Hmm.
but he's okay. But had I
Right.
not shared that, and I needed to share that, I needed to experience that, and I needed to share the biggest part was that I shared it because he needed to see that. That was his message, right? And we never know how we're impacting, how much the words we say, good, bad, or indifferent, affect people. And that's why, I was watching something today, an Instagram story. Taraji P. Henderson was talking about, you never know what someone is going through. That's why you always want to err on the side of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Exactly.
Because a
Never know.
smile goes a long way. A smile, a hi, how you're doing, that goes a long way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit it. You hit it the nail on the head. I mean, it's like you said. One instance, one moment, one
Hmm.
circumstance can change the whole dynamic of what's going on in your world, what's happening with you personally, business wise, anything. And that's why we can't, like you said, that kindness piece is so critical. Don't be
Yeah.
so quick to be judgmental and looking down on somebody. They don't have what you have. They're not doing what you're doing. Don't get to feeling yourself so
Yeah.
much, and don't get comfortable. I heard somebody recently speak to that about when you want to be successful, you want to be accomplished in life, if you want to truly walk in the purpose that God has for you, one of the primary requirements is that you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
You got to get comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Um, But and comfortable with being uncomfortable doesn't mean staying stuck in a
Yeah.
situation. You just got to be mindful and understanding that storms do not uh, pardon any one person. We're going to all get them. They're going
Yeah.
to, yours might not be mine, mine not be maybe yours, but we're going to have them. It's
Yeah.
what you do. How do you respond when they come? Do
Yeah.
you let it be a moment of staying stuck, staying down and out, or do you use it as an opportunity
Yeah.
to grow, to develop, to work through? Because if God allowed it to happen, it was never meant to hurt you. It was always going to be
Yeah.
to help you, to grow you, to develop you. So you gotta, it's a mindset thing. You got to embrace it as such and use that
Yeah.
as an opportunity to leverage and stick it out, fight it through. Of course, keeping him at the forefront and leading you through,
Hmm.
especially when you don't know what to do on your own. Who
What it
better
is.
to
Yeah.
rely upon
Yeah.
to lead you through that? And you'll see in making that be your normal practice as you go through more and more storms, as you're coming up out of those storms, you're going to be like, okay, now I see why I have to do it this way and why it works out for my good when I do it this
Hmm.
way versus trying to fly solo, trying to carry all the weight, all the burden on my own, trying to just be Superman or Superwoman. That oftentimes leads us to make mistakes. That oftentimes leads us to, as you spoke about earlier, making something last way longer than it needed to. You
Yeah.
know, those type of things, we could have avoided all of those you know challenges unnecessarily that we didn't even have to encounter. We didn't have to deal with all of that if we would have just stayed the course and done it exactly the way we were supposed to, stuck it out, fought it through. And again, just allow God to lead us accordingly. So love your approach with that, that kindness piece. Such a big deal. Such a big deal. Wow. This is awesome. I'm loving this conversation. So, um, Renee, I'm curious. In light of all the things that you've gone through, and again, I know with any of us, with our challenges, with our storms, it's not going to always be big stuff. Sometimes it's just the regular day to day life,
Hmm.
lifing type stuff. So I'm curious to know from you, when you are faced with adversity, when you are dealing with challenging times or what have you, no matter what the circumstances are or the magnitude of it, what is the process, if you will, or the routine or the regimen, if you will, that you like to do, that you like to go through, that kind of helps you to stay focused and locked in as you're working through whatever that particular challenge is? In other words, what works best for you in those moments?
Yeah. So I will tell you, I will answer that in two ways. What I used to do was I used to stay in it. I used to it used to just stop me from doing anything progressive. I would it would it just, when I was faced with challenges, a lot of times I would just let it take hold, and I stayed, and not for long, but um, it would affect how I move about. It would affect my attitude, um, just how much work I do. And just like with the personal growth piece, that's something I've really been focused on, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. And that's ongoing. That's something you have to constantly remind yourself about every day. But what I've learned, over the course of just trying to grow, is there's always there's you have to be grateful for everything, every situation, because it could always be worse. Someone somewhere is going through something worse than what you're going through. No matter what you're going through, there's somebody experiencing something a lot worse than you, and you have to be grateful for everything. So one of the things I do try to practice is gratitude. And I don't just say that. One of the things, when I open my eyes in the morning, I'm like, thank you, Lord, for another day. And so I go through like those, and I won't say I'm always consistent, but it's something that I do frequently, more often than not. The other thing that I try to do is just think positive thoughts. I also direct my attention to, um positive. I listen to podcasts or I read books a lot. I recently just got turned on to YouTube. There's a lot of books on YouTube because Audible was just tapping me out. But
Mm-mm.
so I started listening to books on YouTube. I have actually made it a point to read the scriptures in the morning at least once a day. I'm reading a chapter or two in the Bible because one of the things I wanted to increase was my spiritual health. Right, we talk about physical health, we talk about emotional, but your spiritual health, because if you're going to approach this from a holistic standpoint, you got to address the spiritual, the emotional, the financial, the physical. They're all playing a role in you, in how you are as a person. Now, are you going to get it right all the time? No, but always, that's where I always fall back to. You know what? You know better. It's just a moment. Sometimes you just gotta pause, so I do that too. I take a moment. If I feel so overwhelmed, now I can catch myself in those moments. So I use, if I got frustrated with something, I would not stop. I used to be able I would just be like, oh, I'm trying to get it, and not realizing that I was not making any progress. So now I would stop, walk away, do something else, and I find that it works. And what I like to do also is I just like to learn from other people what they do, and implement it, see how much whatever they're doing, whatever technique they use works for me. Now I've grown to like, I exercise, but I've gotten to like walking. Even though I like to run as well, I like walking. Because then I use that time, I just space out. I just go wherever my mind is leading, enjoy the, scenery. So that's one of the things I love to hike. So I do like being in nature, and I told you I love the beach. But on a daily basis, gratitude is one of them. Reading, really immersing myself in positive, like just what I'm feeding my mind, feeding the conversations that I'm taking is, and that's usually I'm listening to a book, listening to Spotify, somebody on Spotify that's empowering. Recently, I've gotten into just listening to a lot of financial things because, like I said, part of the issues with transitioning military and veterans, especially with veterans, we suffer a financial loss as well. So I want to incorporate that into my coaching and help them understand. I do get where you're coming from. I understand the shift, but just going back to your question, gratitude, taking moments for myself, exercising, and being intentional about that. Set it, like, really, I put it on my calendar. I have morning meditation, workout, and then I'll either journal, and I got that from one of my coaches, you know. I got that from one of my coaches. So I started, so every now and then I fall off and then you get back on,
Mm-hmm.
but just being intentional in that, with that process.
I love that. Love that. Definitely the intentional is so important. Definitely the gratitude, just being grateful for what
Hmm.
we tend to, and it's just who we are. But that doesn't necessarily make it right. That we're
Yeah.
so quick to complain about what we don't have,
Yeah.
and in the process of doing so, we forget to give thanks for what we do have.
Yeah.
Because as you stated, there's so many people, so many out here that are way worse off than we may ever experience in the moment of our lifetime, and yet we'll complain and complain about the smallest of stuff.
Hmm.
We'll literally stand. I've used this example before, and even my pastor has talked about this. We'll literally stand in front of a refrigerator full of food and a pantry full of food and get mad talking about there ain't nothing in here to eat.
Yes. Yes.
Really?
Oh my
Nothing?
gosh.
All
Yes.
this food and there's nothing to eat.
Yeah.
Or I just had that yesterday.
Yep.
Or
Must be nice,
wow,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
if those are your
Yeah.
problems, well, there's many people who would love to
Yeah.
exchange what we consider to be
Yeah.
problems. They would consider to be blessings.
Yeah.
They would love to have them. So that gratitude, that just being grateful is just so critical. And then, like you said, not beating yourself up if you do have a fall off moment. I was
Hmm.
trying to be consistent in doing this, and today just was one of those days where
Yeah.
I didn't get to take time to do this, or I didn't get take the time to do that. Okay, you recognize it, you acknowledge for what it was, you dust yourself off, and you get back on track the next day.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. The thing is not falling down. Is do you stay down, or do you decide to
Yeah.
get back up and start again? Keep
Yeah.
doing that. Keep being consistent and just trying to be a better version of yourself. And then of course, as you stated, thinking full circle of not just you know you know addressing the physical, but also the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the financial, all of those things, encompassing them together, because that's what this solidifies us, that makes us whole, in the being the best versions of ourselves. How
I
can we pour into other people if we're lacking
yeah.
in these areas? So
Yeah, I
sorry, go
wanted
ahead.
to add that I've also gotten a lot better of taking the cues from my body.
Mm,
I used to get headaches because I'm too focused on trying to finish something, or, sometimes I wouldn't eat. I'll be so caught up in work that I'm not eating. So you got to take those cues from because your body will tell you, okay, and or it will shut down, and that's a cue. So I've gotten a lot better at doing that too, taking cues from my body and just giving myself the space to, like, if I need to rest, I'm just going to go to sleep, because sometimes that's what you're lacking too. Not enough sleep, not enough water, your mind's tired, your brain's tired, your body's tired, and you're just ignoring those signals, so, and unfortunately for some of us, that could lead to like heart attack, it could lead to a stroke because we're not paying attention to the cues. So that's one of the things I really kind of started paying attention to.
see that last nugget you just dropped?
Mhm.
That was directly for me. You just gave me an ouch moment, because and I only say that because just recently, literally within the last week and a half, I've been, we naturally have our own little
Mhm.
aches and pains here and there from time to time, but there have been some things that have been going on with me physically that just seem to be out of sorts, out of the norm. And
Mhm.
like you said, it's real easy to just, oh, it's not, it's all right. I just need to sleep it off, or I just,
Yeah.
no big deal or whatever. But like you said, we gotta pay attention to those cues, and that's especially important as we get older.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and not ignoring those things, because if we're not careful about that, we'll look up and something will hit us, health
Yeah.
wise, and for some people it could be completely fatal, or
Mhm.
in other instances it could just completely shut you down, and even to that, God
Yeah.
has a way sometimes, even
Yeah.
with that, of saying you're doing too much,
Yep.
and if you don't take the cues that I'm trying to allow to come your way, I'll shut you down,
Yeah.
to make you sit still, to rest,
Yeah.
because I have stuff for you to do, and you can't do that all broke up, all broke, all bent out of shape. You got to
Yeah.
pause. You got to take that time to care for self.
Yeah.
So I'm glad if for no other reason, I'm sure, and I'm saying it was for me, I mean it's for everybody to hear, but it was just the fact that you were saying it, because I'm sitting here right now, I'm like, this is hurting, and then you said that, I was just like, she talking about me. It's kind of like when you're sitting in church and the pastor get to preach or
Yeah.
something, and you feel
Yeah.
like he created that whole
Yeah.
sermon just for you.
Yeah.
That's you
Yeah.
just gave me one of those moments just
Yeah.
then when you start talking about that. Pay
Yeah.
attention to the cues.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Renee. No, I'm just, uh,
Anytime.
so so
Mhm.
Renee, if you had a chance to as you reflect back on your life and all the experiences that you've encountered, good, bad, or otherwise, if you had a chance to speak to the younger Renee, you even shared earlier, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certain ways that you might have responded to certain questions, certain ways that you might have handled situations would have been even been different than what you do today. If you could talk to her, or if you could just speak to someone maybe who might be listening that is currently going through some of the same challenges and burdens, if you will, that perhaps you've once experienced and been able to overcome, what would be your words of encouragement, your words of inspiration that you would have for somebody, that younger version of you, or somebody that's currently like what you used to be, that you believe would be helpful in their focus, in their direction, in their mindset, on how to approach the handling of adversity and overcoming challenging moments in life?
Yeah, so that's That's a really good question, honestly. So if I think back to my childhood, like I told you, there was always something. I always had this knowing without really knowing. And that's what I would say. Trust that knowing, because that's God's way of staying in you. That's his light. You may not know how to express or turn the switch on for everybody else to see, but that's his way of keeping you. That's his way of protecting you, of speaking to you, you know. And like, always be grateful for what you have, for where you are, and understand that your experiences are not happening to you, they're happening for you,
Mm.
right? Because you still have a choice in how it turns out. You can either take it as it is, or you can use it as a stepping stone. You can get stronger from it. You can stay in the moment, or you can get stronger from it, because the moment, it's temporary. And that temporary moment may be a month, 2 months, 6 months, but it's still temporary, because you don't have, it won't be like that forever, right? So how you come out of that is up to you, right? And the other thing I would encourage her is to dream, dream and believe in possibilities, be open to every opportunity. And this is just some of the things I'm learning as I'm growing, as I'm getting older. But to my younger self, to my 10-year-old daughter, I instill all of that. Have faith and believe that anything is possible, because it is. It honestly is. But you just have to keep believing and trusting that everything you're going through is for a purpose, and ask God, what is this purpose? What is my purpose? Where are you leading me? Show me. I have to do that. I'm like, show me, Lord, because I'm the special one. I'm your special baby. So but genuinely, and that's one thing I would add is keep God in everything. Keep him first. Ask him, if this is you, can you show me that this is you. But ask him for direction. Seek him first. He says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, so seek him first with everything that you do. That's one thing I've been practicing. It's not something that I will tell you that I've mastered, but now that I have that, it's one of the things. Even if I forget, I'm like, Lord, I didn't come to you. um, I'm coming
Hmm.
now, but seek him first in everything. Be grateful, believe in possibilities, believe that you can achieve anything and everything that you put your mind to.
Love that. Love that. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. So, Renee, I have thoroughly enjoyed having you on the podcast. You've dropped many gems, many nuggets of wisdom. Been very authentic, very transparent in sharing of your stories. I know I've been blessed. I know that my listeners are being blessed as a result of you sharing. So we thoroughly appreciate and are grateful that you've taken this time to pour into us as you have. And words cannot express how impactful and how powerful that is for all of us, having this opportunity to experience this with you.
Thank
Um, but as is customary here on our Blessings in the Streets podcast, I do want to take the time to celebrate you, to acknowledge you, to love on you. So if you got anything that's going on right now, personal, business related, that you'd like to share, that's coming up, that we need to know about, that we need to be excited with you about,
you.
please share that. Of course, along with how people can connect with you if they're interested in any of your services or offerings that you have. Lord, let it all out right now. Let us know, because we want to love on you and celebrate that. All your accomplishments and all your projects that may be forthcoming. Please, whatever you can share that you desire to share, please let us know.
Well, thank you. Like, first I want to say I really do appreciate you having me on the show. I enjoyed this. I like this dialogue. I like the way you have this set up. But thank you again. I feel honored just to share and to talk with you and your listeners. So the I will put out my website is www.renee Renea Jones Hudson JONESHUDSON.com. So it's my name.com. All my social media handles is my name at Renea Jones-Hudson. So I'm pretty easy to find. Um, and you can get to me from my website, or you can DM me as well. So about what I have coming up. So I didn't share this part. It's not a secret though. It just didn't come up. so
Breaking
I,
news. No.
so I recently got selected as the vice president for one of the veteran service organizations here in town, and we have our grand opening on April 27th at 10 o'clock. It's the DSP Waypoint um, location in LaGrange, Georgia. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be an amazing facility. It's going to be the largest and the headquarters for the DSP Waypoint. We do have a location in Griffin, which is a smaller location, but like I said, the big location will be in LaGrange. So that's on April 27th at 10 o'clock. I'm also a part of Leadership Griffin. It's a leadership program in the city of Griffin. It's an 8 month long program, and we have a capstone that we have to do. We have to come up with a initiative at the end of the program. So our program is about to come to an end. So we have a stable housing initiative event on April 8th at Southern Crescent Technical College here in Griffin. So that's another exciting event. It's going to have a lot of resources for people looking for housing, for homeless, people who are homeless in the community. Um, Also, what else do I have going on? I just want to celebrate. I this month alone, Women's History. Maybe that's why Women's History Month. I've been interviewed. I've been interviewed for like 4 magazines, which was very exciting. Yes, and then your
Wow.
podcast. I was like, yay! So that that was exciting. It's very good to share. Share yourself with people. I wasn't always willing to share what I do, but we're in the people business, and my biggest thing is to empower and to add value to everyone that I meet or everyone that sees me. So that's I was excited about that. And just oh, I'm doing my doctorate program, so just celebrate that I'm almost there.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Almost there. Yeah, so that's it for now. That's keeping me pretty busy.
That is great. That is great. So again, we celebrate you. We congratulate you on all the great works that you're doing, the opportunities that have been provided to you. God is opening up doors and windows and everything else for you to pour into the lives of many, and you're taking that assignment head on and just being the best version of yourself, and we can't do anything but again to celebrate, to keep you lifted in prayer, to love you for doing what you're doing. So many lives you're going to be able to change. You've already changed, and lives to be changed just in the works that you're doing. And you're walking in your divine purpose that God has for you. And it's just an awesome thing to witness. And I'm excited for you and looking forward to hearing more accomplishments and things that you're going to be connected with and involved with. So I would encourage my listeners, please check her out. If there's anything that she's presented today that you can be of benefit to, or of someone that could benefit from her services, please do get them connected, get them linked up. You can see Renee is very approachable, very passionate about what she's doing. So please take full advantage of that opportunity. So again, Renee, thank you so much for being a part of our time this evening on the podcast. And for my listeners, if you've enjoyed our content, our conversation, the sharing of these stories in such an authentic and genuine way, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about. We want to inspire, we want to encourage, we want to uplift. We want to make sure that you're connected to the one true source, which is God Himself. If that's a connection that you've not yet made, I promise you, if you decide to make that move, it'll be the best decision that you've ever made. He's the ultimate problem solver. He loves you unconditionally. He'll never let you down. And those moments of challenge, those moments of adversity, those feelings as if I can't get through this, I can't overcome this, all of that goes away just because of who you're connected to, and what a better place, what a better person, I should say, to be connected to than God Himself. So with that said, remember here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is a place where your story is your glory, your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight, keep persevering, stay strong. Don't let the challenges and the storms of life keep you down. They're going to happen. They're going to come your way, but you don't have to stay stuck in those moments. Use them as opportunities that they are for you to grow, to develop, to become that better version of yourself, to be stronger, to be better, to be wiser. Be intentional about what you're doing in your life in your terms of your mindset, and that emotional, that physical, that spiritual, that financial that we talked about today. Embrace it all and just watch God do wonders in your life.
Mm.
So until next time, you take care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you again.